Hi, I'm Angela. Funny how life changes in the blink of an eye. One moment, you're a passionate nurse at Memorial Hospital, thriving in your career. The next, you're married to someone who feels like two different people: public Dean, the charismatic, attentive husband, and private Dean, someone far darker. Your sister called again, Sarah said during our lunch break, sliding into the seat across from me in the hospital cafeteria. Her tone was casual, but her eyes betrayed concern. She's worried. Says she hasn't heard from you in months. I stirred my coffee, avoiding her gaze. You know how busy the hospital gets. I'll call her soon. Sarah frowned. Remember when we used to go out after shifts? You never come anymore. And what's with the long sleeves in this heat? Dean likes us to have dinner together. Says it's important for married couples, I replied, tugging at my sleeve. It was an excuse, one of many I'd grown adept at offering. The truth was, I hadn't seen my family in nearly a year. Somewhere between I do and now, my world has shrunk to three things: work, home, and Dean-approved activities. Even at work, I couldn't escape him. He'd drop by unexpectedly, questioning who I was talking to or why I was staying late. His mother, Helen, often reminded me how blessed I was. Dean is just like his father, Robert, she'd say with pride. So devoted to his family. They just like to know where their wives are. It shows they care. She'd said this once while Robert casually checked her phone for the third time that evening. The spark of excitement came one morning in the break room. Big news, Sarah announced, her face lit up. They're promoting someone to charge nurse next month. You should apply, Angela. You're the best nurse on this floor. For the first time in forever, I felt hope flicker. A charge nurse position meant better hours, more responsibility, and nearly double my salary. Maybe, just maybe, with more money, things at home would get better. That night, while Dean was at his weekly poker game, what his sister Diana had let slip were underground gambling sessions. I filled out the application. When the promotion call came, I almost didn't answer. Unknown numbers usually meant collectors calling about Dean's mysterious debts. But this time, it was good news. They offered me the position on the spot. Double the salary. Day shifts only. Weekends off. Tomorrow, you're having dinner at Dean's parents' house. I hadn't told him about the promotion yet. Helen was making her famous pot roast, and Diana was bringing her kids. I knew Robert and Dean would spend most of the evening discussing Dean's failing business ventures while casually monitoring their wives' phones. But tomorrow would be different. For the first time since I said, I do, I was planning to say no. When Dean demanded my first charge nurse paycheck, I'd be ready. My hands shook as I typed out a text to Sarah. Can you come to dinner at Helen and Robert's tomorrow? I might need a friend. The pot roast sat heavy in my stomach as I watched Dean charm his way through dinner. He was in rare form, telling jokes, complimenting his mom's cooking, and playing the role of the perfect son. No one would guess what had happened in the car just hours earlier. Remember to keep quiet about the promotion until we discuss it properly, he'd said, his grip leaving marks on my arm. Angela's been so quiet tonight, Helen said, reaching across the table to pat my hand. Are you feeling all right, dear? Actually, I have some news. The words slipped out before I could stop them. The wine glass in Dean's hand stilled midair. I got promoted to charge nurse today. That's wonderful. Diana's genuine excitement cut through the tension like a blade. Isn't that great, Dean? Dean's smile didn't waver, but his eyes turned cold. Of course, Dean said smoothly, though the sharp edge in his voice was unmistakable. Angela and I were just discussing how the extra money will help with our debts. What debts? Robert's voice cut through the room. Dean's father rarely spoke at these dinners, making his question all the more pointed. There is no debt. My voice, steady but strange even to me, broke the stunned silence. And the money isn't going toward any mysterious bills either. I'm keeping this paycheck. The silence that followed was deafening. Helen's fork clattered against her plate. Honey, Dean began, his voice carrying that warning tone I knew too well. Let's discuss this at home. No, I stood up, my chair scraping against the floor. No more discussions at home. No more managing my money. No more controlling every aspect of my life. Dean shot up from his seat, towering over me. You're being hysterical, he hissed. This is why you need my help. Help? I laughed bitterly. Like when you got emotional because I bought groceries without asking. Or yesterday when I talked to my brother on the phone without your permission. Dean? Helen's voice was uncertain now. What is she talking about? Nothing, Mom. Dean's facade was slipping. He reached for my arm with that all too familiar grip disguised as affection. But I stepped back. Don't touch me. His mask finally cracked. You're my wife, he snarled, his voice low and venomous. Your money is my money. Everything you have is mine. Time slowed. His hand lashed out, striking my face. It wasn't the subtle, controlled aggression I'd grown used to. This was raw, unrestrained violence. I barely registered the chaos around me. Robert standing up abruptly, Diana shielding her children, Helen's hands flying to her mouth in horror. Through the ringing in my ears, I found my voice. Don't stop, Dean, I said, forcing each word out. Show your family exactly who you are. Give me exactly what I need. His composure shattered completely. The man who had fooled everyone in this room, who had played the perfect son, the loving husband, revealed his true self in an uncontrollable rage. The last thing I saw before the world went dark was Sarah bursting through the door with 2 police officers in tow. She'd gotten my text after all. I woke up in a hospital bed to the soft murmur of voices. Sarah was holding my hand, her eyes red from crying. My brother James sat nearby, asleep in a chair by the window. How did you know to come? My throat was raw, my voice barely audible. Diana called me, Sarah said, squeezing my hand. Right after she called James, we got here as fast as we could. The events of that night came flooding back. The promotion announcement, Dean's outburst, his father's rare attempt to intervene, Helen's screams, Diana shielding her kids. Everything had unraveled so quickly. After 3 days in the hospital, I moved into James's guest room. For the first time in years, I didn't have to walk on eggshells or monitor my every word. Peace, however tentative, began to settle in. Helen called again, Sarah said one afternoon, handing me a coffee during one of her visits. And Dean's been harassing everyone at the hospital, trying to find you. But the corporate world proved brutally efficient. Dean's carefully crafted professional image couldn't withstand what his own family had witnessed. His firm's partners began asking questions. Clients pulled away. Sarah filled me in during a break. They put him on leave, she said. Apparently he's been snapping at people and making threats. His mask is slipping everywhere now. He tried coming to the house, James added, his voice tight with anger. I had a word with him. He won't try again. Each day brought new updates about Dean's downfall. But watching his life unravel wasn't my focus anymore. My energy was devoted to healing. The hospital administration, horrified by what had happened, doubled down on their support, installing new security measures and fast-tracking me into the management training program. Diana began bringing her kids over for dinner, a simple joy Dean had never allowed. Even Helen started therapy. I'm starting to see how much damage I caused by enabling him, she admitted during one of our hesitant conversations. The fear wasn't gone entirely, but it was fading. In its place grew something stronger. The knowledge that I wasn't alone and never had been. Looking at my small but fierce support system, I realized something profound. Sometimes, the best revenge isn't about punishment. It's about thriving despite everything they tried to take from you. 6 months have passed since that night at Helen's dining table. The hospital corridors feel different now. They're mine. As the charge nurse of the emergency department, I run my floor with the confidence I thought I'd lost. Angela, we need your sign-off on the new schedules, Emma, a junior nurse, said, handing me a clipboard. The tablet caught my eye, and with it, a detail I hadn't noticed before. Deanna's engagement ring was gone. I left him, she whispered, her voice steady yet soft. After what happened with you, I realized I didn't have to stay. My story had spread through the hospital, not as gossip, but as a wake-up call. 3 other women had already left their abusive situations. Sometimes strength is contagious. I was reviewing patient charts when Sarah burst into the room, her face pale. He's here, she said breathlessly. Dean is in the ER. My hands didn't shake anymore. What happened? Some sort of breakdown at work, she explained. He started throwing things, threatening people. His firm finally fired him. I walked to the ER entrance, Sarah close behind. Dean sat on a bed, his head in his hands. He looked smaller somehow. Helen hovered nearby, visibly strained, while Diana stood at a distance, her arms crossed. You need to treat me first, Dean barked at the intake nurse. I'm having chest pains. I stepped forward, clipboard in hand. Actually, as charge nurse, I determine priority cases. And you're not having a heart attack, Dean. Your vitals are normal. You're having a panic attack because your actions finally have consequences. He looked up then, really seeing me for the first time. But I wasn't the woman he'd married anymore. My scrubs were short-sleeved, no more hiding. My voice didn't waver. You can't treat me, he snarled. You're my wife. Ex-wife, I corrected. And I'm not treating you. I'm doing my job, which means the elderly man in Bay 3 with actual chest pains takes precedence over you. Helen stepped forward, her expression resolute. Dean, that's enough. You've lost everything because of your own actions, your job, your family, your reputation. Mom, you can't. I can, she said firmly, cutting him off. And I will. You need help, real help. But not from the people you've hurt. Turning back to the intake nurse, I instructed, Mr. Doe can wait. His condition is non-critical. Then meeting Dean's eyes one last time, I added, Bay 4 is open when you're ready to fill out your paperwork like everyone else. As I walked away, Diana fell into step beside me. That was beautiful. It wasn't about revenge, I told her. It was about taking back power, my power. Later that night, I sat in my new apartment, surrounded by the life I'd rebuilt. Photos from Sarah's wedding, where I'd stood as her maid of honor. My charge nurse certification proudly displayed. The keys to my own car. A calendar full of family dinners with James, nights out with friends, and plans for a future I created myself. My phone buzzed with a text from Helen. I'm sorry I didn't see it sooner, but I'm so proud of who you've become. I didn't respond immediately. Instead, I looked around at my peaceful home, at all the pieces of myself I gathered back together. They were stronger now, forged in fire and truth. Sometimes, the best revenge isn't about destroying your abuser. It's about rebuilding yourself so completely that their power over you becomes nothing but a memory. And memory can't hurt me anymore. I picked up my phone and typed my response, I'm proud of me too. Now this is my story. If you've read this far, let me know your thoughts. Share your experiences. Your courage might help someone recognize these patterns before it's too late. Remember, asking for help isn't a weakness. It's a strength.